Disney Plus has put out a bunch of fun new shows ranging from reboots and continuations like The Proud Family Louder and Prouder to the ever-popular Mandalorian, and of course the epicenter of today's video, multiple MCU projects. The latest of these shows is Moon Knight, a show about a Jewish man with dissociative identity disorder who is manipulated by the Egyptian god Khonshu to become a vigilante and serve justice. With the final episode of this series dropped on Wednesday, May 4th, and with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness coming out on Friday the 6th, we felt it was necessary to talk about what most people consider the best MCU Disney Plus show. I'm Caleb with Wicked Binge, and this is Moon Knight: Good to Evil. Also, spoilers for every episode of the MCU show, as well as potential spoilers for other projects past, present, and future. So, do go watch the show if you have Disney Plus, and then come back here if you want to remain unspoiled. Of course, we're going to start off with the best of the best, starting with the good. Earning our gold medal of good is the hippopotamus goddess Taweret. Taweret appears at the end of episode 4 and plays a major role throughout episode 5. And brought up by Eric Voss of New Rockstars, can be seen as the loving mother Mark didn't have. In this show, she helps Mark and Steven and the duo balance the scales of their heart so they can move to the field of reeds. She also plays a major role in episode 6, where she has Layla become her champion and avatar like Mark is to Khonshu. She is shown to be loving and caring, and even tries to stop Mark from leaving the field because he wouldn't be able to go back if he left. She even holds off the sand wave that would have swallowed Mark and Steven so they could go back to Earth. Now, maybe she's eviler than we see because it seems like she was imprisoned in a new Shabdi like Amit or Khonshu based on one that looks like her in the ending credits, but it's never confirmed in the show to our knowledge. The silver medal of good goes to Stephen Grant, aka Mr. Knight. Steven is the character we are led to believe is the main character of the show, and like many Marvel properties, the main character is one of the best characters. Now, the thing about Steve is he is actually an alter within the DID system of Mark Spector, created when he was young. Steven was created to function properly around his abusive mother whilst believing his mother was actually a good person. This is apparently called a trauma-free part, designed to be, as the name implies, trauma-free. This leads to Steven being a very nice guy all in all. He's kind of bookish, a nerd, but he's never rude or angry, except after Mark reappears. By the end of this series, Steven becomes much more confident and he does show that he loves Mark's wife, which can be considered weird to some, but it happens in real DID systems as well. Steven doesn't really do anything wrong, so it makes sense to drop him here. Egyptian superhero Layla Al-Faouli, aka the Scarlet Scarab, is entering our bronze medal of good. Layla is a pretty major character throughout the show, being Mark's wife who he's separated from to try and protect. Layla obviously still cares for Mark and cares some for Steve as well after finding out about him. In episode 6, she works with Taweret, becoming her avatar and by proxy becoming comic superhero the Scarlet Scarab. She not only frees Khonshu so Mark can come back, but she also helps Mark fight off Harrow to stop Amit. It's even implied she's the first hero for all of Egypt, which is a very big deal, especially for her. Because yes, she did steal a lot of artifacts in the past and does have fake federal IDs, but she allegedly gave these stolen artifacts to their rightful owners, so we can't really hold it against her. Rounding out the good section of our list is the character the show is named after, Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight. Mark is the host of the DID system, having created his alters in response to his abusive childhood. Mark later became a Marine and went AWOL, ending up as a mercenary and eventual avatar for the moon god Khonshu.
I serve Khonshu. I'm his avatar.
As the Avatar, he tries his best to dole out the justice asked of him by Khonshu, killing anyone the god deems as evil and worthy of justice. Mark does show that he doesn't want to kill anyone who doesn't deserve it, such as Haro at the end of the show, and only wants to be separated from Khonshu. He was even willing to fully give up his body to Steven once the deeds were done. However, by the end of the show, he has fully accepted Steven and was even willing to sacrifice himself to the Duat because he didn't feel right leaving him behind. And you know how we feel about self-sacrifice. He's still done a lot of terrible things, but we can't in good conscience leave him in the gray when you consider the sacrifice. With the best out of the way, we now move our way down to the less good but still not evil section of our list. This is the gray area. Starting off the gray section of our list is Elias Spector. Elias is Mark's father and the husband of Wendy Spector, who we'll get to later. Elias seems to be a good father to Mark and Randall for the most part. That is, until Randall's death. After Randall's death, he tries his hardest to still be a good father to Mark and help him deal with the death and Wendy's abuse. However, when Mark as a teenager decides to leave because of his mother's abuse, Elias tries to convince him not to. He even seems complacent in her abuse, which means he can't rank in the good section. There is a chance he tried to stop it, but we never see that. So we have to call it like we see it, and he lands in the gray. Landing next on our list is Mark's final known alter, Jake Lockley. Jake doesn't appear for very long, only making a physical appearance in the post-credits scene of the final episode. However, what we do know about him is that he's kind of a flirt and a mass murderer. He is actually the main alter that Khonshu uses, and we see him pop up, or rather, we see his actions a few times in the series. He kills the Ammit cultists in Cairo in episode 3, maybe behind the bloody scene Steven gets back to in episode 1, and causes mass damage in episode 6. He is even the one who finally kills Haro and by result Ammit in said post-credit scene. However, he lands here because he is being manipulated by Khonshu, as far as we can tell, so he doesn't fall further. Rounding out the gray area of our list is Egyptian god Khonshu. Khonshu is the Egyptian god of the moon and the night sky, who has had multiple avatars that he uses to fight crime and punish evildoers. This was originally Arthur Harrow, but eventually he chose Mark Spector because of his fractured mind, specifically preying on Jake to be his true avatar. Khonshu does not like Steven very much, calling him a worm and pretty much useless, and he doesn't care about the safety of his avatar usually. Although, at the end of the series, he does show care for when Mark comes back to life. Khonshu is manipulative and cares about his mission more than anything else. But he's not bad enough to reach the bad to evil section, at least from what we can see. Speaking of, we are now reaching the bottom of the barrel as we reach the bad to evil category. Starting off the bad to evil section is Wendy Spector. Wendy was Mark and Randall's mother, and seems like a good one at first. After the death of Randall, she kind of goes insane and starts to become heavily abusive towards Mark. She drinks heavily and is actually physically abusive to him during his childhood. This gets to the point that Mark runs away as a teenager and refuses to go to her Shiva when she dies. Wendy doesn't fall lower for a few reasons, one of which is the scope of her crimes, not being world-ending, but also because she went through the loss of a child and we understand her pain, but it doesn't make it better. Ranking right outside our top 3 is Anton Mogart. Anton is an antagonist in episode 3, and he is a so-called antiques collector that Layla and Mark go to trying to find Senfu's sarcophagus. Anton is a haughty rich boy who doesn't care too much about the artifacts themselves, and has some history with Layla, who is known to steal and sell similar artifacts. It's hard to rank him because he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he does try to kill Layla and Mark, and he seems to care very little about his people, and being a criminal mastermind does rank him lower. We do have to say rest in peace to his actor, Gaspard Ulel, who died before the show aired. However, he still ranks here. Earning our bronze medal of evil is Billy Fitzgerald and Bobby Kennedy. We have to rank them together for a very obvious reason. The two of them are Harrow's top enforcers and are very little beyond soldiers for Harrow's mission. They follow Harrow's orders without question, killing hundreds by the end of the series. Even in the fake hospital formed by Mark and the Duat, they are implied to beat Mark and possibly other patients like they do in the comics. The problem is, they're merely soldiers following orders after being brainwashed by a cult, so we can't in good conscience rank them lower, although they were already outclassed. Stealing the silver medal of evil is the main villain, Arthur Harrow. Harrow is the leader of what is essentially a cult who worships the deity Ammit. He wields a magic staff utilizing the power of Ammit to judge the scales of anyone he touches, and if their scales are unbalanced, he kills them. This leads to him trying to free Ammit so she can rule the world with her style of judgment. Now, Harrow used to work for Khonshu and has even said that he quite enjoyed harming people for the bird god. Working for Ammit is retribution. We later learn his scales are unbalanced, and he was willing to give up his life as he does believe what he preached. This does lead him to being killed by Jake, but that's besides the point. Harrow has no morals beyond his religion and what the religion believes. The only reason he doesn't grab gold is because he is in service to the gold medalist herself. That's right, crocodile god Ammit is grabbing our gold medal of evil. Ammit is an Egyptian goddess who is banished by her fellow gods and imprisoned in an Ubashti hidden in the tomb of Alexander the Great. Ammit is freed and almost instantly starts enacting her retribution and her form of judgment that invokes killing pretty much anyone who isn't in her cult. Ammit shows no care for the humans on the ground, especially after being betrayed by Alexander. Ammit does suffer from being trapped for 2,000 years, and that would make anyone cranky. Probably give them a pretty bad crick in the neck, but that doesn't make her actions any better. But before we go, we do have some salacious sinner medals to hand out. Earning our Envy medal is Stephen Grant. Stephen mostly lands here because he seems envious of Mark's confidence, Dylan's museum guide job, and does try to get with Layla, which can be seen as a bit envious, although he grows out of it by the end of the series. The Lust medal very tentatively goes to Mark Spector. Now, he's not lustful in the usual way, but he does show intense feelings towards Layla even after they got separated, and very obviously still loves her. His mother, Wendy Spector, grabs our Wrath medal. We won't harp on this too long, but she does physically abuse Mark and pretty much kicks down his door. Crocodile goddess Ammit grabs the Gluttony medal, because she grows bigger from eating souls that were supposed to go to the Duat and cares very little for things beyond that. Our Greed medal goes to Anton Mogart, because he buys and subsequently hoards important artifacts from all over the world and cares for nothing beyond having them. In the comics, he's known as the Midnight Man and steals art for the fun of it. Finally, Arthur Harrow is the one grabbing our Pride medal. He is very prideful of his cult, the power of the goddess Ammit, and his mission, which is why he grabs it. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.